Hello and welcome. Have you ever really thought about what makes a lump of coal more than just a piece of rock? Or why we call the soil under our feet a living system? Well, today, we're diving deep into the resources and development chapter. We're going to look at what a resource even is, how we classify them, and the really critical plans we need to build a future that actually lasts. So, let's get right into it.
So here's the roadmap for our discussion. First, we'll start with the basics. What exactly is a resource? Then we'll journey through the huge world of different resource types. After that, we'll face some hard truths about what happens when greed takes over. But don't worry, we'll then look at the blueprint for a better way forward. And to wrap it all up, we'll get our hands dirty, so to speak, and talk about one of the most important resources there is: soil.
All right, first things first, we have to build our foundation. We use the word resource all the time, but what does it really truly mean? Before we can talk about managing anything, we need to be on the same page about the definition.
Now, here's a question that gets to a common misconception. Are resources just free gifts? Things nature just hands to us? The forests, the rivers, the minerals, are they just there for the taking? It feels like it, right? But it's actually not quite that simple.
And boom, there it is. The textbook tells us flat out, no, they are not. This is a huge shift in how we think about this. See, resources aren't just found, they're kind of made. A chunk of iron ore in the ground is just a reddish rock until humans develop the knowledge and the tech to turn it into steel. We, human beings, are the secret ingredient that turns stuff in the environment into something valuable.
This brings us to the core definition. And listen up, because this is super important for your exams. For anything to be called a resource, it has to pass a three-point test. 1. Is it technologically accessible? Meaning, do we have the tools to actually get and use it? 2. Is it economically feasible? Is it affordable enough to be worthwhile? And 3. Is it culturally acceptable? Does society approve of us using it? If it doesn't tick all three of those boxes, it's not a resource. It's just potential.
This little diagram here, it shows that relationship perfectly. You see us, humans, right in the middle. We interact with the physical environment, with nature, but we do it through technology. And then we create institutions, things like governments, companies, and scientific organizations, to manage it all. It's this constant triangle of interaction, with us at the very center driving everything.
Okay, so now we know what a resource is, but there are so many of them. How do we even begin to get our heads around all the different types? Well, that's where classification comes in. Let's break down how we organize this world of resources. This flowchart is basically our cheat sheet for the next few slides. It lays out the whole system, the whole family tree of resources, if you will. We're going to walk through this piece by piece, starting with that big split you see at the top between natural and human.
So first up, let's classify them based on their origin. This one's pretty simple. You've got biotic resources, basically anything that's living or came from something living. Think plants, animals, fisheries, even us. Then you have abiotic resources. These are the non-living things, like rocks, minerals, and metals. Easy, right? Living versus non-living.
Next, we've got exhaustibility, and this one is absolutely critical. Renewable resources are things that can be replenished, within our lifetime. Think solar power, wind, water. But non-renewable resources, that's a different story. These are things like coal and oil that took literally millions of years to form. Once we use them up, they are gone, for good.
All right, what about who owns them?
Well, some resources are individual, like your house or a farmer's land. Others are owned by the community, like public parks or village ponds. Then you have national resources, all the minerals, forests, and waters inside a country's borders. And then it gets really interesting with international resources, like the open ocean beyond 200 nautical miles from the coast. No single country owns that. It's managed by international bodies for everyone.
And finally, we sort them by their stage of development. So, potential resources are things we know exist but just haven't started using yet. Developed resources are the ones we've surveyed, we know the quality and quality, and we're using them. Stock is stuff we know is there, but we just don't have the technology to get to it yet. And reserves are part of the stock that we can access with current tech, but we're deliberately saving for the future.
So we've got all these amazing resources, all neatly categorized. It sounds great, but what happens when we don't manage them wisely? What happens when our use is driven by short-sighted greed? Well, that leads us to some really serious problems. According to our source material, this indiscriminate use causes three huge interconnected problems. First, we're depleting our resources, not for everyone's needs, but for the greed of just a few.
Second, this leads to wealth getting concentrated in just a few hands, splitting society into the haves and the have-nots. And third, the massive scary result of all this, global ecological crises.
And when we say depletion, we're not just talking about using stuff up. It's about a small number of people or countries consuming way more than their fair share. Basically, running up a credit card bill that future generations are going to have to pay.
This depletion is a direct cause of inequality. When all that resource wealth flows to a tiny percentage of the population, it creates this huge gap between the rich and the poor. And this isn't just unfair, it leads to instability, social unrest, and even conflict.
And of course, the damage to the planet itself is just catastrophic. We are talking global warming, the ozone layer, massive pollution, land turning to desert. These aren't hypotheticals. These are the direct consequences of misusing our planet's gifts. Wow, that's a pretty grim picture, isn't it? But here's the good news. It's not a lost cause. We know what the problems are, which means we can work on the solutions. And it all starts with smart planning and a concept I know you've heard of, sustainable development.
Here it is. This is the definition, the one from the Brundtland Commission report in 1987. You should really know this one by heart. It's such a simple but powerful idea. Basically, let's take care of ourselves today, but let's do it in a way that doesn't rob our kids and grandkids of their chance to do the same. It's about balance.
So what does that look like in the real world? Well, take India's approach to resource planning. It's a three-step process. First, you identify what you have and where it is. You take inventory. Second, you create a plan and get the right technology and people to execute it. And third, and this is so important, you make sure your resource plan lines up with your country's bigger development goals.
Now, to bring all these big ideas down to earth, let's zoom in on one resource. A resource we walk on every day and probably don't think about nearly enough, but one that is the foundation of our survival: soil. I just love this quote. It makes you stop and think. Soil isn't just dirt. It is a living system. It's teeming with life, microorganisms, fungi, worms. It's the medium that grows our food. It's the foundation of our ecosystems. It is, without a doubt, one of the most vital resources we have.
And making it is an unbelievably slow and complex process. It's this delicate dance between the type of rock it comes from, the climate, the plants and animals, natural forces, and the main ingredient, time. We are talking millions of years to create just a few centimeters of good topsoil. Millions of years. And yet, we can destroy it through carelessness in just a few decades. That's why protecting it is so urgent.
And we'll end with this powerful quote from Gandhiji. There is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed. It really cuts to the heart of the issue, doesn't it? It was true then, and it's even more true today. So the question it leaves us with is, how do we, in our own lives, find that balance between our needs and the future of our planet? That's something for all of us to think about.